Mary Magdalene and Alice in Wonderland greet visitors in the courtyard of Paris's Mint. Inside, 100 works from the 1980s to the present day. The human body, the female figure, religion and nature, the main motives of Kiki Smith's oeuvre are all here, as well as the wide variety of materials she's used: bronze, plaster, glass, porcelain, tapestry, paper and wax.
Hello, hello. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you. I like this. This is all one work in here.
It can be any configuration. It's supposed to be like in a landscape, but it actually looks quite pretty from above when you see the figures on this, checkered pattern.
Kiki, this is your first solo exhibition in Paris, in France. The patron saint of this city, Saint-Geneviève, actually appears in your work.
Yeah, it came from seeing a small painting of Saint-Geneviève with the lamb and the wolf. And then I got in the wolf department. I didn't get to the lamb part.
And tell us more about this image of a woman coming out of a wolf.
It was just from the Little Red Riding Hood of, when the hunter cuts open the wolf, then the Little Red Riding Hood and the grandmother stand up out from the wolf, then I just wanted to see what it looked like.
It's a bit like she's being born from him.
Yeah, yeah. It was really a copy of a very small fallen Jesus that I saw in someone's house in New Mexico. When I saw it, I thought I'd like to make a crucifixion like that. And so I cast the bottom part of my neighbor's body, but then he had to go to work, so he left. So then I cast the top part of my body and put them together. So it has some attributes of male and female, but it wasn't really the point at the time. It wasn't anything. I wasn't
It
trying.
wasn't supposed to be a transgender Jesus.
Yeah, I wasn't really doing that. But then I thought, that Jesus certainly has to be inclusive to, a larger segment of the population.
And you grew up in the Catholic religion. Do you feel like you draw a lot from it in your work?
I have drawn a lot from being Catholic, maybe to other people's chagrin. For me, it was the first representation I saw of humans and nature and, the formality of spirituality, how spirituality is configured, or, in Catholicism, it is this belief in the physical manifestation of the spiritual world.
The symbolism of Kiki Smith's art finds its inspiration in her childhood memories, her reading of the fairy tales of Perrault and the Brothers Grimm, and the model making she did for her father, the sculptor Tony Smith. Her early works were entrenched in the political and social upheaval of the 80s, reflecting on activism around sexuality, gender, and the AIDS crisis, to which she lost her sister and many friends, marked by her fascination with the human body.
In the 90s, you shifted towards nature, myth, and legend in your work. Tell us about that shift.
I think it just came naturally that I thought it became apparent to pay attention to the natural environment and to kind of think about where we're going with it. And then also I started living more outside of New York City. Your frontier changes, and what becomes engaging and what becomes mysterious and unknown and sort of paramount is the nature. And that's when I also started working more with fairy tales and myths that included sort of humans with nature, because I thought, our identity is so interwoven with nature. My sister was ill, and dying, I guess, and she watched nature programs, and it did really change me. You know, that was one of the indicators that was what I should pay attention to. She had a brain tumor, so it was diminishing her access to the world, but that was something where she felt connected to the world.
And we're in the middle of this global climate change movement. How worried are you about the environment?
I'm worried. You know, I think there are things that people can do in their daily lives but I think it's really governments and international corporations, and, you know, it's a little higher up, or the nature will change us. You know, I know, like, now there's much more problems with fertility in the world. And then I think, well, maybe the nature is just making our population smaller of its own accord. We will change, and our environment will change. We'll see if we're here to see it.
You're often associated with the human body, especially the female body. What's fascinated you about the female body over the years?
Nothing particularly, other than that I have a female body, and it just seemed a vehicle to speak through about being here. And also because I thought, you know, a female body can stand in for a human also. I mean, if a male can represent all of humanity, a female also, or, you know, a transgendered person or anyone can represent all of humanity also.
And how has getting older, your body getting older, changed the way you make art?
You know, I think when I made a lot of this work, you know, I was in my 30s to 40s, and making it, and I was much more angst-ridden as a younger person, and, you know, trying to figure out who I am. Being older, I don't care who I am anymore. I think that's also why, you know, my work went towards nature, because, you know, first you're grappling with what it means to be, you know, in a body to begin with, and all the complexity of that. Whereas, you know, now it's to look outside of one's own body into the universe. I made a series of witch burning sculptures as commemorations against the witch killings. But then I laughed because no one ever wanted them also, you know. But you know, I was very happy to make them.
There's a lot of feminist undertones in your work, and also activist undertones in your work. How's your feminism and activism changed over the years?
I think feminism, like anything else, is foremost a human rights issue. So, but then the nuance of that has to have many, many different cultural manifestations, because, you know, females are over half the population of the earth, and there's enormous diversity in what females think they need in any given place.
Kiki Smith's work is at the crossroads of a universe of fantasy and popular folklore with distinct feminist undertones. Her exhibition is on at the Paris Mint until February.